there. So today we are at Fix Cafe, and before we start, I just want to thank the owner Frank for allowing me to record this video here, and a big thank you to the staff for allowing us to be here. It is one of my favorite cafes in Barbados, and I thought, where else to start this series if not Fix Cafe? So if you are in Barbados, I know they have different locations, but my favorite is the Fix Cafe in Lanterns. So if you are ever here, please come and check it out. Great ambience, great staff, great food and drinks. Well, come and check it out. A nice chill spot, and that's where we'll be today. So time to get into the video. Okay, so hello there, welcome back to my YouTube channel with my guest, Rawletta. So you know me, I'm legally locked, and before this video even gets started, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. So now that you've done that, we're gonna get right into it. So February is Black History Month, and I thought, listen, who better to interview than a fellow KFL history maker, Rawletta Barrow. So Rawletta is my classmate at KFL. She is Guyanese. I won't get too much into her introduction because she will do a further introduction herself, but Rawletta has done something very amazing, and she will share with you what that is. And I just thought that, listen, we often do these interviews when persons are old and grey and halfway in the grave, and I thought, no, Black History Month is about celebrating young history makers as well, and Rawletta is a young history maker indeed. And so without further ado, I invite Rawletta to give her introduction. Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, all of the jobs. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I'm so honored to be here, first of all.
Thank you.
So yes, I am Rawletta Barrow, as Adelia mentioned. I am a Guyanese, proud Guyanese, born and grown, but currently I'm in Barbados studying at the University of the West Indies. I'm doing law and I'm in my final year. The amazing thing that Adelia mentioned was that I was recently selected as the Commonwealth Caribbean Rhodes Scholar for 2022.
I don't think I heard that. You have to repeat it for them because that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Say it again.
Yes, so I was recently selected as the Commonwealth Caribbean Rhodes Scholar for 2022. So yeah, I'm honestly still a bit overwhelmed and shocked by that accomplishment, but I am really grateful for the support of my fellow KFL students like Adelia. So thank you so much for having me again.
No problem. It is an honor to have this history maker in our midst. Now, you've told us you're Guyanese.
Yes.
She's a star, a Rhodes Scholar, period. But okay, what inspired you to study law?
Well, it was kind of not one single moment. It was more like in school I always enjoyed subjects that had to do with like reading, like history and English and things like that, and writing and stuff. So law was always like one of my choices that was on my mind, but I really didn't confirm it until, well, two things. I started doing it at sixth form, so that really gave me a little bit of the gist of what it was like, and I thought it was really like a thought-provoking subject. So I'm like, I'd be interested in just studying this But then practically, I really like, youth work and youth volunteering. And so I find that one of my passions is helping others, making an impact. And I feel like the law is one of those transformative tools that we can use to really make an impact on our society in a large scale way. So definitely, I'm like, you know what, the law is for me. I love it. It's all about advocacy, and it's not even just, I guess, oral advocacy. It's about advocacy, I guess, through making connections with people, and yeah, it's like, I guess, being a positive influence on your society. I really like this idea that you have for this channel, because it's so inspirational. And I think that is all a part of, making an impact in the legal world, inspiring someone else. This may be something that they want to do. And I just think that, making an impact is where it's at. And I'm really, really happy that you're doing this.
Thank you. You see, this is Rawletta. Let me tell you, I started asking her about herself, and she turned back around like, that's just her nature. So, we haven't interacted a lot because of the pandemic. That's really robbed us of a rich experience to interact with students from other regional countries. And if there's something that you wanted to do before the pandemic but didn't get a chance to, what was that?
There's so many things. I wanted to, I guess, explore Barbados a lot more. And I think that in my first semester, I was like, you know what? I can do these things later,
The time goes quickly.
like law week activities and things like UEVAL and things like that. I'm like, I don't have to do this now. I have time. But then COVID hit, and
there was no time.
So yeah, it's just so much of the island that I just haven't experienced. But I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change that this semester.
And she will. I'm gonna say
you will help me. Yes.
Okay, so you told us that you did the reading subjects, and now you're gonna be going on to your masters, right? So I have two questions for you. Where will you be pursuing your masters, and what area are you going to be pursuing when you get to that area?
So the masters is at the University of Oxford.
Period. Start. I tell you, Black History Maker. Continue.
Thank you. And I'm doing the Bachelor of Civil Law degree, which is, that's what I plan to do. It's a master's level degree, even though it has the title of Bachelor. Yeah, so it's a master's level law degree, and that I get it. You can choose from a variety of course options, so it allows you to be able to, I guess, mix it up. You can do like commercial and human rights and like different master's level courses, kind of similar to the LLB rather than doing like a single stream. So that's why I really like it. But most of the courses that I want to study would be in like law and politics and human rights law and constitutional law.
Okay, we love it. A young advocate. Look out for her. It's very often we overlook the challenges. Now, we're gonna go off into a bit of gender law class, or let us in my gender law class last semester, and we spoke about intersectionalities a lot. So in Black History Month, a lot of times it's just like Black history, but what persons don't know is that it's harder for Black women to excel, especially in a male-dominated area like law. A lot of times people just assume that, female law students, they have it just as easy or just as hard as male law students, and that's not true. So what are some of the challenges that you have overcome being a black female in law, and what is something that you would like to tell a young black female who wants to pursue law or just started pursuing law and she's coming up on challenges and just feeling stuck? What do you have to say to them?
I love this question. I think that this is a really good point. With respect to black women in law, I feel like a lot of the times in the Caribbean, I guess people would not like right now, people might not necessarily say that law is male dominated at first glance, right? Because if you take our law class, for example, it's a lot more women than men, yeah. But then when you look at, I think, the higher levels of the legal profession, when you look at the judges who sit on the courts, even the highest courts, when you look at the lawmakers, that's where you see the male dominated aspect of the career. And I think
fraternity.
Yeah, it's kind of it's harder definitely to break that barrier in those upper levels. And I think sometimes it can be an external barrier but also internal, because I feel like a lot of the times as women, how we're socialized, I feel like we don't necessarily put ourselves forward for a lot of these opportunities as well. So coming back to your question, when I think of a young female black law student, I would just say, make sure you push yourself to the highest, push yourself to the maximum, maximize your potential, know what you want and go for it, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, because you can do it. You definitely can. And we do have some great female role models that are judges.
Judges, what upcoming judges?
In the region that we can emulate, even though there are few, they're there.
Yeah.
And it's our job to increase that number. So don't doubt yourself. Don't just stay stuck. I'm a big believer in just keep pushing higher and going for the highest you can possibly go.
I think honestly that's a very good answer, because a lot of times we assume that the barriers come from external sources, and I'm not taking them, because trust me,
yes,
we have a lot of external barriers, but part of overcoming that barrier, as you say, is within, and part of fighting within is finding support systems like other women in the legal realm, in the legal fraternity, because we can't do it alone. That's the reality. We cannot do it alone. Law is not a subject that you can study alone. Like, you get burned out, you will get overwhelmed, you won't be a history maker sitting in a cafe. But I love that answer. I really love that answer. So I want to thank you for that. And I'm sure there's a young lady out there who will be very grateful for this answer, if not immediately when they're watching this video, years to come when they are doing their law degree. So thank you very much. I have to ask, was there any point in your law degree when you were just like, I'm a top out.
Oh my gosh, this question, yes. And I feel like people wouldn't expect it, because I think, yes, I do get good grades in the end, but there has been time, I think especially second year, I don't know, I felt as though it's a combination of the COVID and the isolation from the regular learning environment. I'm at home, I'm with my family, sometimes they're lovely, but they can be distracting. There's so much pressure as well, and then with law, it's like having additional pressure in addition to the readings that we have, the long reading list, the cases. It can take a toll on your mental health. and I really had to. I was really depressed at one point in time, and I really had to, I guess, acknowledge that and acknowledge that I need to slow down a bit and I need to make time for myself and time to relax, because sometimes, yes, you want to do everything, but if you try to do everything, you have to know your limits. And it's good to push limits, but there's always a place where you have to acknowledge that, I need to relax, I need to rest, I need to recover. So, sometimes if it means, I guess, like taking a day off. I took so many days off. Thank God for those lecture recordings. Those lecture recordings saved me, because I'm like, okay, I can, take a day off and I can catch up back. Yes. So I took some mental health days, and I just recovered a bit, because it can get really, really overwhelming, especially when you have other things. I know, law students that have children, they have a job, and I'm like, I can only imagine this. I can only imagine this stress. So yeah, I don't think people should feel bad for needing to rest and recover. Just do what you know that you need to do to ensure that your mental health is okay. As long as you're okay, then everything will fall into place. That's what I always tell myself. Yeah.
Good answer. Great. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask, what do you think? I'm trying to find. What do you think is key to universe after studying? So, okay, so we're back, and once again, we're here with a Black History maker in the building, period. So, talking about Black History, what do you think about Black History Month? Are we doing enough as a region, as a legal fraternity, or do you think it has died down, the relevance? Tell me, what do you think?
I guess coming from the Guyanese perspective, it hasn't really been a thing where I'm from, and I'm not sure about the wider Caribbean, but from talking to some of my classmates and stuff, they also have this sense that, it's more of a Black American celebration.
True.
And in one sense you could think that, okay, our history, Caribbean history, how we're taught, it's full of Black history in that sense, so a lot of what we need to know about, slavery and all of those aspects of our colonialization and things like that, we are generally aware of in our education system, which is not the same in the American system. And I think that's what sparked, the Black History Month movement there. But it's still not enough. I think that's what we don't recognize, that what we do is still not enough. Recently, I've been thinking about the fact that a lot of what we learn of Black history, I guess, begins at slavery, whereas, there's Black history before
so much more
slavery.
Exactly.
And I wish we were, a lot more educated on African history before slavery, and then after, modern Black history, and I think that is what's missing, and I think that's where Black History Month plays like such an important role. Like we can keep the history relevant, we can keep it modern, you know, we can keep telling stories that are current and contemporary. So I think that's where we're missing that aspect of it. Yeah, definitely. So we definitely need it. We need at least some amount of celebration of, you know, how far we've come and where we're going, but we're not doing enough, and I think it's because we don't really recognize that we need it. Yeah,
that's true. The first step is acknowledging, and I don't think we as a people have acknowledged the need to recognize our own.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's important for us to have forums like this where we can sit and engage young history makers and older history makers, because we will have older history makers on this channel as well. But the first step is acknowledging that, listen, this is something that's important to us, whether it is past history, current history, because the idea of history is so past tense. It's always like, years ago, dust off the graves and all the memories. But we are living in history.
Yes.
We are literally living in history. Like, we have experienced so many historical moments, the pandemic. Were you here when the volcano erupted?
I was not here.
Girl, give God thanks. But I'm just saying, we are experiencing so many historical moments, and we don't talk about that enough because, you know, we have our own heroes days in our country, and that's it. Like, we have a whole month to celebrate being Black, and we don't talk about it.
Yes.
It's just like, Black History Month, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah, so we have to do more. But
definitely,
in terms of history makers, who is your hero or heroine? Somebody who stands out in Black history that you are proud to be a part of their history? If you get what I'm saying.
Wow, that's such a good question. Actually, you know, recently I have been delving a little bit more into Guyanese history, and I've been learning a bit more about Walter Rodney, who is one of the
troublemaker
hallmarks of Guyanese history, and you would not believe we really don't learn about him in school. We don't talk about him, and it's when I came to UK Hill, I've seen how much he's been, you know, commemorated, and you know how much, you know, like significance is lent to his name, and I'm like, wow, it's so amazing. He was an amazing political activist and advocate for Black people, you know, in a time where, you know, it was difficult. It was extremely difficult. I mean, he was assassinated.
Exactly.
He was assassinated, and I'm like, you know, it's just inspirational because he's Guyanese, he's Black, and you know, I can, you know, lean into that, and you know, I am trying to make my country a better place, and that's what he wanted for my country as well. And we have so much to do still. So I guess it inspires me to pick up the baton and just, you know, keep running with it. So definitely I would say him for sure.
Wow, thank you. That was so inspirational. I did not expect that to go there because, you know, you said you are a history lover, you love reading, and I would have read about Walter Rodney as well. And there's always this narrative about him, you know, a negative perspective. So to hear somebody speak about him proudly, being a part of his culture, his heritage, his history, you know, that is very good that you are trying to change the narrative surrounding these history makers. And it happens too often where, you know, when our history is recalled, persons try to switch it and make us look like the bad guys and the criminals, when in truth and in fact, these persons stood for change. They want to break stereotypes, but in the moment, it's very hard for them. And I'm hoping conversations like these make those conversations easier.
Yes,
Breaking
yes.
stereotypes, changing narratives, and not being seen as a troublemaker per se. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And I think when you're like looking at history and reading history, you always have to think about whose perspective you're reading it from and who is writing what you're reading, because perspective matters so much. And even if you think of our current political landscape where everything is so like contested and controversial and you can find an opinion on anything, so imagine like students in the future reading about I guess anything that's controversial right now. It's so hard to find, okay, what is the truth?
Yeah,
The truth is so
that is
the
so
pandemic.
controversial. Should I wear a mask? Should I get vaccinated?
What started the
Exactly.
pandemic?
So
No,
that is very
there's
controversial.
so many perspectives. So it's really interesting to think about like how how perspective influences how we perceive history and how we perceive ourselves and our own Black people.
That's true. That's true. So good. So good. And all right. So you spoke about Rodney. I think this is a very fitting question coming next. You heard a current history maker talking about a past history maker. So combining your knowledge of the past and your experience as a current history maker, what do you think goes into history making? What do you think goes into being a history maker, a Black female history maker? Tell me, like, what's the concoction?
That's a difficult question. I think I would say passion. I think it's definitely passion. When you think of all of the people that have, made their mark in society, they were very driven people and they had a goal, something that they were really passionate about, and they just went towards that and pursued it in a very like single-minded way. And I think that is really what goes into history making. A lot of the times, I think we kind of a lot of persons, they don't really find their passion, and sometimes they just stick to something just because it's,
Easy.
it's convenient, it's easy. Maybe, they don't feel as though they can really pursue their passion because of circumstances. But I definitely feel like when you have that drive, that's something to motivate you. That's the only way that you can really achieve your truest potential. So I really think it's all about drive, and I really don't feel like it can be something like superficial, like just like money necessarily.
Because money will come. That's the reality. Money will come.
You have to find something that really makes you happy and brings you joy. And I mean, that could be something that makes you money as well, but sometimes it's not. But sometimes it's not. But then you have to like figure out how to navigate that, because your happiness is important. That's what I always tell people that ask me for advice. Like, your happiness is important, and that's really where you're gonna thrive and grow when you're happy. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you heard it, guys, passion and drive. And now that you've spoken about passion, I just want to ask, assuming that you found your passion, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. Where do you go from here? What is next on your history making chart?
That is a good question, because I'm passionate about a lot of different.
This is like important. Alright, so we were talking about what drives history makers, and you say passion drives you, and you think that's what drives past history makers. So now that you found your passion, or assuming that you found your passion, and you can let us know, where do you go from here? What's next for charting new territory and continuing to make history?
Well, I think that I found my passion broadly, and I would say that I guess, describe it as youth development. So I launched this project last year in Guyana called Project Jumpstart, which is a career mentorship program where we match young people with professionals in their field so that they can, get a sense of, what the field is like, and to, gain resources and just motivation. And from that experience, I met so many amazing young people who had so much to offer. And I realized that there's like so much inequality in our educational systems, and these are like broader systemic issues. So much inequality in access to employment, and so much lack of opportunity for I guess diverse career paths and things like that. So I want to be able to transform that experience. I want to be able to transform that experience from when you get out of school, moving through school, and then when you get out of school, being able to navigate your path. I want it to be and transition. I want that to be easier. And combined with my love for law and the way that law can really be used in creative and transformative ways, which I don't think we've really tapped into in the region as yet. Our legislation can be so much more contemporary and really address key modern issues.
Unique issues that the Caribbean doesn't touch on.
Yes. So that's kind of my goal, to kind of combine my passion for youth policy and the law to try to find solutions, legal and policy solutions to help to just make young people's lives better. And I don't know exactly necessarily how that will look, how exactly I'm gonna achieve that, but that's the goal, and that's what's really driving me right now.
Well, thank you very much, Rawletta. We are excited to see what else you have in store. Trust me, it is an honor to have walked the halls virtually with you. Virtually. And I look forward to seeing what you contribute to Black history tomorrow, for years to come, just continuously. So, and thank you for coming here to talk to us about what it's like to make history. It was a great experience, and I hope this conversation can help future history makers. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, and honestly I view you as a future history maker as well. So definitely I'm looking forward to see where you go and what you do, for sure. And thank you once again for this is very inspirational for me as well, that you're actually recognizing my passion and my drive and my potential. So thank you so much.
No problem. So, guys, thank you for staying with us. And if you have not already, hit that like button, comment down below who you want to see next. If you have any inspirational quotes or just encouraging words for Rawletta as a Black history maker from Guyana. What's your area code?
592.
So, from the grade 592, if you have any words for Rawletta, if you have any words for our channel, do you think this was a great talk, let us know down below. But for sure, thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Bye!
Bye!